Okay. Call the meeting to order. Today's meeting is being streamed live via the Township of Addington Highlands YouTube channel. To those present in the gallery today, by attending a public meeting of council, you are consenting to your image, voice, and comments being recorded. Anyone invited to speak will be recorded, and their voice, image, and comments will form part of the live stream. The chair and/or clerk have the discretion and authority at any time to direct the termination or interruption of the live streaming. Such direction will only be given in exceptional circumstances where deemed relevant. Circumstances may include instances where the content of debate is considered misleading, defamatory, or potentially inappropriate to be published. Notice is hereby provided that under the authority of the Municipal Act 2001 and in accordance with Ontario's Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, that all information provided for or at a public meeting / consultation or other public process are considered part of the public record. Members of council, staff, delegations, and attendees should be mindful of using names of individuals or entities when discussing matters in public. Attendees are advised that they may be subject to legal action if their actions result in inappropriate and/or unacceptable behavior and/or comments. As per the Township's procedural bylaw, as amended, all votes during electronic meetings will be recorded votes. All of council is present in the council chambers today. Thank you. I'll ask for a motion to approve the agenda. Councilor Yance, Deputy Reeve Fritsch. Any additional items? Ready for the vote. Councilor Thompson.
Yes.
Councilor Hook.
Yes.
Deputy Reeve Fritsch.
Yes.
Councilor Yance.
Yes.
That motion is carried. Adoption of the minutes of the regular meeting dated September the 16th, 2025. Councilor Hook, Councilor Thompson. Any errors or omissions? Ready for the vote. Councilor Thompson.
Yes.
Councilor Hook.
Yes.
Deputy Reeve Fritsch.
Yes.
Councilor Yance.
Yes.
That motion is carried. Business arising from the minutes, official plan update. Is Mark going to?
Yes.
Yeah. Mark, did you want to speak to this?
Sure, yeah, thank you. So, good afternoon, Reeve Hogg and members of council. So good to see you again. So on the agenda was a letter, which was intended to summarize key discussion points, I guess I would call them, and areas where we're seeking feedback from council and direction on particular issues related to the OP update, some of which would be addressed directly through the official plan update, and some which may be addressed through a zoning bylaw update after the OP is revised. So I prepared the letter just with kind of very to the point identification of 5 key issues with options that tie back into the discussion papers that we had provided back in August, and that were the topic of one of the topics of council discussion in September when I was last there. So the topics in the letter were just related to consents, additional residential units, multi-unit development in rural areas, types of housing, particularly like thinking about type of construction, and also tiny homes. And then lastly, short-term accommodations, so STAs, Airbnbs, that sort of thing. So I'm happy to go through the 5 items specifically, or however council wishes to proceed.
Tony, you have
Well,
something?
just my thoughts. I think we should just go through them
I think so too.
one at a time and.
Okay.
Yep.
So if it's helpful, I can share my screen, but I have to send a request here to turn on screen sharing. Patricia, it looks like I get a.
Working on it. One moment.
All right, sounds good. So while you're doing that, I'll just start off with the first one. So the topic of discussion, which has been something that's come up on a number of occasions over the years, and even the last OP updates, is the number of severances allowed from a property, and that's an ongoing, I guess I would say, an ongoing issue with many municipalities, rural municipalities in particular, because as we all discussed, they don't necessarily see a lot of growth in settlement areas, whereas kind of rural areas become more uh, the place where new development tends to happen, particularly lot creation and new housing construction. Um, so I'm sharing my screen now. Hopefully everybody can see that okay. Yeah, looks like it. Okay. So I'll
Yep.
just focus on the first one. So currently, as discussed last time and in the housing discussion paper, the number of severances from a land holding as of 2004 is limited to 2 new lots plus the retained, so a total of 3 lots. In the housing discussion paper, originally created a couple of years ago and then updated in August, the recommendation was to propose to increase this to 3 new lots plus the retained. So an additional 1 lot from any holding that's maybe reached its maximum number already in the last 20 years. The alternate, or maybe in addition to option is to also adjust the starting date, um, so that rather than being bound by the 2004 date, it could be brought forward to, maybe the most logical point is probably the adoption of the current official plan to 2025, or 26 by the time council perhaps adopts it. The other modification, I guess, to this or these two options is perhaps taking a bit of a different approach to the number of lots, perhaps modifying the 3+1 to be something like 4+1, where on a major road, like a county road, for example, Highway 41, province is pretty reluctant to grant a lot of new entrances, so that might not be all that effective. But um, there's, I guess, a number of different ways, I guess, if council wants to support additional severances that it could be enabled, at least as far as council adoption goes. I do want to say that the county, in our discussions with them over the last few years and in working on this issue with other municipalities, the county's fairly reluctant, I guess I would say, to take off all constraints and to be really aggressive, I guess, in terms of allowing many new lots. So that's why originally our recommendation was to go from 3 to 4, as that's, I would say, the most likely option to be supported by the county. That being said, certainly a council can give direction and we can have discussions with county staff who would provide the recommendation to county council. So at council's wishes, I guess, in terms of what you'd like to see brought forward here.
Tony.
Yes, thanks, Henry. Mark, are there any statistics or I guess guesstimates as to if you take option like 1A as to how many properties or potential properties that could be released, I guess relative to sort of the likely growth or growth targets in our community?
Through you, Mr.
Go ahead.
Reeve, yeah. There is, not that I have on hand, like there's anecdotal, I guess, understanding. I think staff have a understanding of where there's a desire from some property owners who've reached their limit to have more severances. Usually the way, if we have to dig into this and defend it and put forward an argument, the typical way to do that is to do some assessment. One of the ways to do that is called the vacant lot inventory, where we look at how many vacant lots are there, are they developable, and then look at, okay, if we were to add additional severances to some of these lots, how many more might be created. So this is where it's difficult to pin down exactly how many new development lots would be automatically created if we go from 3 to 4. Um, it's a bit of a educated assumption, guess, whatever you want to call it, that you're likely going to free up, you know, 10, 20, 30 new lots that maybe can get one additional severance where they've reached their max and the owners are wanting to sever and they're in a suitable location and size to accommodate new growth. But yeah.
Well,
Yeah, thanks, Mark. Yeah, I mean, I know of a number of property owners that they would actually follow up on this, follow through on it. However, I agree with you. It's kind of a loaded question, very difficult to answer, but thanks for the comments.
Patricia,
All right. I would just wanted to provide council with just one of the comments that we received. So since the publication of the agenda and just one, I didn't provide all of the comments that we received since the publication, but we did receive one from Stephanie Marisette that expressed disappointment in the number of consents as it ties the hands of landowners and hopes council will include a clause to state that for landowners that have sorry, I'm going to just read from her thing, that landowners that can meet the requirements for a severance, even though they already have the maximum allowed, that a severance can be at council's discretion.
Ken,
Well, I was kind of interested in the option B, just for interest, because I thought we wanted more development, more lots, more housing. And I was wondering if there was other disadvantages of going with B. I think you mentioned, Mark, that county council or county may not like it, but is there other hidden disadvantages of opening it up to the 2025 date? Is there danger that the planning department will be swamped with a whole bunch of consents, or is there other disadvantages?
Mr. Eve. No disadvantages or pitfalls that I can think of. The reason why it hasn't been, I haven't seen it used in other municipalities as part of OP updates. I think because effectively it's viewed as, you know, going from like most recent OP updates in area municipalities, Eastern Ontario, we're typically seeing them going from 2+1 to 3+1, or adding one more. Like the last round of official plan updates we've seen in the last, say, 5 years, that's the typical approach because it's seen as, I guess, a kind of a reasonable, defensible, not very controversial increase. And we haven't seen, at least I'm not aware of any municipality where they've taken option B, where they've reset the clock from a date that's typically around amalgamation and pulled it forward, 20 plus years. I think because it's seen as effectively you're going from 3+1 or 2+1 to, 6 or 7+1 effectively. So but not to say it's not a viable option or shouldn't be considered. I think all I'll say, I think, on this point is that anything more than probably one per property or maybe one additional per property, plus maybe some sort of language that allows for a bit more on town county roads or like major roads. Anything other than that, I think we're going to get into a bit more of a back and forth and have to do some more homework to make the case that more severances are warranted.
Tony,
Okay, so listening to those discussions, if we had, do you think the county would buy it if we went from the number permitted from 3 per property, which includes the retained, to 4 per property, and then on county and provincial roads went to one additional on top of that. So it'd be 5 per property.
Yeah. Potentially, I see that as a bit more of a potential starting or a easier path, I guess, in terms of getting support and making a case, because there's two things that really kind of play into, and they're both related, but I'd say there's two things that play into why municipalities, whether of their own choice or the direction of the upper tier county who approves the official plans. There's really two reasons why they stick to one, maybe adding one more lot. And that's because of provincial direction and general policy goals to try to direct growth towards settlement areas. And related to that, the second reason being that having development in the rural areas can take away, potentially viable agricultural land, agri resources. It's maybe requires more dependency on cars, which is not really a factor in rural municipalities when you're driving everywhere for anything anyway. So I think that's where tying or giving some additional permissions to major roads helps to address those points, because major roads typically they're connecting between settlement areas. You're probably relatively close to the settlement area if you're on a major road anyway. This comes up again later on in the multi-unit discussion point, where there's um, the idea that maybe allow more units if they're on a major road in close proximity to settlement areas, because again, you know, you're kind of supporting the settlement areas, and you're in an area where you can actually have more development, because settlement areas have, as we all know, constraints related to small lot sizes and servicing and those types of things.
Mm.
Yeah. So I think that is if council's looking at other options to expand outside of A or B, that I think that is a good, alternate A option, I guess, where you do the 3+1 plus maybe one additional for lots fronting on major roads.
I don't know what council's appetite is, but do you want more discussion, or do you want me to I'll make a motion.
Sure, go ahead.
We can debate it.
Uh,
Go ahead, Helen.
Just a comment, I certainly would like to see more severances than what's mentioned here, because everybody's property, if you have 500 acres, it could be a little different shape and size, but it's on a main road. And I think that we need to be aware of that people need to be able to use their property or leave it to their grandchildren or their children or whatever, and give everybody a piece of the pie, so to speak. And it's easy for people that live in the city. Maybe they can't comprehend that people would have 100 acres or 500 acres or 1,200 acres. And I think that the local municipality should have more control and say over the severances. Everybody's lot is different in shape, and we need to be able to, I think we should be able to say yay or nay for some of these. I'm certainly glad to see that we are considering going from 3 to 4, but I think that we need to go a little farther.
Patricia?
Could I just ask a question, Mark? With MTO policies the way they are, do you find that it's harder to develop along the highways for additional lots? I know, so even the larger properties, it's still restrictive to get that additional lot on that highway with their
Yeah.
policies, don't you find?
Yeah, Chris, that's a good point. I kind of picked up on that earlier, that Highway 41 may have limited potential in some ways because of that very fact. So I think this is where the idea that we might allow more severances on major roads in proximity to settlement areas as a strategic way to expand the number of severances in appropriate areas. The township of South Frontenac has kind of done something similar with their recent official plan update. Although they're identifying essentially all lands that along major roads kind of between their settlement areas as future secondary plan areas, so that they would allow significant new development in these areas outside of settlement areas, it would have to go through like a separate planning exercise and probably larger scale, like we're talking like a subdivision essentially in these areas. But the same principle applies, I think, where everybody hopefully recognizes the limitations of settlement areas, unserviced settlement areas to accommodate real growth, both, practically speaking, people just aren't moving into settlement areas for various reasons. And two, from a physical, technical perspective, there's not that many viable lots and there are constraints on water and sanitary services in settlement areas. So I think taking the principle of, okay, so how do we work with what we've got, um, and still, not open the floodgates maybe to things that the county wouldn't ultimately approve. The idea of allowing additional severances in strategic locations, whether it's on major roads or on oversized properties or like large properties, so that you're still getting large minimum lot areas. Like that's another, I guess, um, take on this alternate approach. So we could modify 1A to say additional severances on major roads or on properties that are, where the minimum lot size is at least X size or something like X 5 hectares or 5 acres, something like that. So that kind of goes to the idea that we're maintaining the rural character of the area, which we know the county had flagged as one of the questions about allowing more severances, that we're not kind of stripping off the road frontages and just getting a continuous line of houses along all the roads, which I think practically speaking wouldn't actually happen. But if we put some sort of lot size limitation on these additional severances, that might help address that concern from the county.
Thank you. Tony, what did you? I see you writing.
Well, there's not exactly an easy answer to this one, right?
No.
We all want some growth, but we also don't, we want it managed growth, right? So that we try to preserve, I'm gonna say the beautiful sort of country that we live in, an area that we live in without it. So, yeah, I'm struggling with that a little bit. I mean, it's a pretty major decision that we would be making. So Mark's just pointing out another way too is if you normally say you bumped it from 3 to 4, which is in
That's additional.
A, plus another one either for major roadways or another one for a larger minimum lot size. That also tries to preserve some of the, I guess, potential congestion of homes, and keep them more into the rural type of appearance. It would also, you'd want that to be essentially a minimum frontage. You wouldn't want 50-foot strips, 5 acres long, going off a road so that you end up with that appearance. I don't think people would want that as an appearance. So it's probably a minimum frontage if you went with a larger lot size. Do you have any comments, Patricia?
I would agree. It's those inadvertent land mergers that have happened in the past when the parents owned all of those lots or the grandparents owned all of those lots and farmed them, but then they pass down to family and there's more children and they'd like to keep the children in the area, that type of thing. So they'd like to create the lots or those I see that more with those large tracts of land where it's been in the family for a long time, rather than someone just buys 100 acres and wants to, create a lot of lots along the road or that type of thing. And then the back of the 100 acres doesn't get divided up or whatever. That I see it more in those larger inadvertent mergers that have happened over the years. So.
Kirby,
Yeah, and getting back to what Helen said, I agree, like, it'd be nice to see that if you're talking, somebody has depending on the amount of acres, 500 acres, 400 acres, 1,000 acres, that, you know, it could be divided up and you'd have one access road, you know. And then you could have 5 acre lots, 50 acre lots, whatever, but you could make maybe 6 or 7 lots. Like, why restrict this to, but it would have to be set up on lot size, like the property size, you know what I mean? Like, you couldn't say, well, I'm putting 6 lots on 100 acres, so it's, you know, it would have to be, I want to say 500 or 1,000 acres or something like that, but it'd be nice to see just that you could have the possibility of doing more lots on a bigger piece of property because of the family dynamic, you know?
And, and that could be done through a plan of subdivision still. It's just that with the committee of adjustment, you would be able to create certain number of lots through a consent. So for a consent, you could do up to this number, whatever council decides. Plan of subdivision, you could still, you know, go through that process and create more lots.
So any other comments? Tony?
You have an easy answer to this one? So, well, I'll try to wing it and maybe we can adjust
It's
this.
like, I'm in favor of
Yep.
what you're proposing.
So which one of the 5? Yeah, you mean major roads? That one? Okay. Which is the original one I was, okay. Well, I'll make a motion that we increase, which is related to 1A, the number permitted increase from 3 per property, which is 2 new and 1 retained, to 4 per property, which is 3 new and 1 retained. And increase that to 5 per property for provincial and county roads. Recognizing if you want to split your property up, as Councillor Thompson's referring to, with large lots with your own access road, you can do that. You could even do that currently, I believe, with a plan of subdivision. Can you?
Tender for that motion? Should we? Discussion, Helen?
Uh, I guess you said provincial highways and county roads, right? What about township roads? They're pretty major in this area. I think that should be included in that.
It would be basically all roads are.
So that would just be all areas outside, I'm gonna call it the settlement areas or hamlets, is what you're referring to.
Ken?
Just a question, to go to a subdivision, that's quite an expensive ordeal, is it not? We don't have a lot of those applications now. It's almost like we're putting up another barrier to development. Is there any other way to go around that?
Mark could probably speak more to that.
Yeah, I see you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, subdivisions are rare. Like in Stone Mills Township, I will say there's one subdivision from early 2000s that's just now kind of going through the final stages, and there's one new subdivision application that they've seen in the last 2 or 3 years. So it's fairly rare in rural areas, and especially as you get further away from the city, because eventually subdivision lots will sell out, but it takes a long time. And usually subdivisions, you only do them when you're creating new roads. Like that's probably the single biggest reason why you would go with a subdivision over severances, other than lot sizes, is if you have to create a new road. And it's going to be uncommon or difficult to, create a number of severances along an existing lot all at once and not come and run into trouble with other things. So it's, yeah, long story short, or long answer short, yeah, subdivisions aren't, I don't expect that subdivisions are gonna start to be widely used. Because they are more costly. Best case scenario, maybe like a waterfront development of some sort might include a subdivision, but that's more of a resort type development that would be pretty exceptional. So I think that finding opportunities to increase the severances is probably the most, viable way or impactful way of creating more residential lots for development. Depending on subdivisions or a landowner to go through a plan of subdivision process is it's probably just not likely to happen.
Only,
Okay, so you have a mover and a seconder. We're gonna adjust the motion, then we'll see if the seconder will support it. And I don't remember what it said the first time, Christine, so, no. So we would propose to, the motion would be to increase the number permitted from 3 per property to 4 per property in whether we call it settlement areas or hamlets, and from 3 to property to 5 per property in all areas outside of that.
no minimum lot size or anything of that side, or,
We have, a current minimum lot sizes, but that's only, yeah, we don't have a minimum lot. Yeah, we do, but our minimum lot size currently is it's 1 acre, 1 hectare,
Minimum lot size is 1 acre.
1 acre, yeah.
2 acres on water.
okay, so is there a seconder? You second that, Kirby? Discussions? Helen?
So we're not voting on, just because they're on provincial or county? No.
Rescinded
Take,
that one and replaced it with.
in the draft motion, yeah, we're taking that out. So this revised motion would be that it is in hamlets, we're bumping it up by 1. In every area outside of a hamlet, you're bumping it up by 2.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Question, would that include non-maintained roads or maintained township roads? You said everywhere, so
Have to be maintained, Council Road.
I think they have to be maintained roads.
that would be my
Yeah, because you
understanding.
can't. On areas that aren't maintained, no. Because there's, yeah. You wouldn't get a permit in many of them now anyway, so.
Any other comments, questions? Ready for the vote?
Sorry,
Councillor
sorry if
Flinton.
I can. Sorry, just to jump in. Sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead.
So the part of the motion about in Hamlet, so we hadn't really talked about that. And I think there was some previous discussion last meeting maybe about the hamlets. And in fact, I think you could increase the number of severances permitted in hamlets to 5 or more. I think in Stone Mills, the recent OP update actually took the limit off of severances in hamlets where fronting on a public road. So I think really if we want to increase the number of severances in hamlets, that's probably an easy thing to do. And, increasing it to 5 is probably almost a non-issue. But I think the understanding is that that's not likely to generate a whole lot of new lot development anyway. So I think that the focus was more outside of the hamlets, increasing from 3 to 4, and then if we want to increase it from 3 to 5 or 4 to 5 on the major roads and or larger lot sizes, that's maybe where we're going to have those discussions with the county and have to maybe make a bit of an argument. So sorry if it was unclear and affected the motion that way.
Kirby?
I believe we took out that major roads to all roads is what we're looking at, right?
Yeah, I think so.
So Mark, the not looking at every hamlet, but looking at a lot of them, you'd be really struggling to sever some of the, there's not many hamlets don't have very large lots to start with. So
Agreed.
splitting them off, splitting like two more lots, like one, I'm gonna call it two more residents, one within the retained, and then severing a couple more off of it, like bumping that up another. I don't know how you'd even, I don't know what you would achieve in a lot of hamlets because they're,
Yeah, and it
not all the
may,
lots, they're pretty small lots.
they are. I think just strategically, it may be from an optics perspective, if we put forward a change that says we're gonna allow more severances in rural areas than in our settlement areas, that on its face would seem to go against provincial policy and direction because you're trying to enable more development in rural areas than settlement areas by having more permissive severance policies in outside of settlement areas. I think that would be my concern, that at the very least they should match. And yeah, it may be that nobody takes advantage of it because you physically can't sever more lots in settlement areas. But I think at the very least we should try to match the two on paper. And then I think going back to the revised motion, if we're just going from 3 to 5 on all fully maintained roads, then really I think seems to me then we're just modifying option A there to be 4+1, I guess, for all roads or all areas except like seasonal roads effectively, right?
Yes, that's what that
Yeah,
motion on the table is saying, yes.
yeah.
Any other, Kirby?
I just have a statement. It's, like Premier Doug Ford said, build more houses faster, and it seems like the county wants to restrict us to a specific amount of lots instead of just being able to build them. So like I said, that's why I support this here with the 5 for a property, at least that much.
Helen,
Oh, okay.
Yes, I'm very concerned that we always seem to be taking direction from the province when I'm sure that I know they don't understand rural communities at all. And I'm very frustrated. I know 5 is better than what we had before, but I think we as a township, and I think the county should recognize that we know or should know what is best for our township. And to have somebody over saying, oh, that's not right, or that shouldn't be working, it kind of just doesn't sit well with me. Anyway, I'm just tad annoyed.
Tony,
Yes. I completely appreciate everyone's views. So if we adjusted this once more, so I got to get through that. So if we had, and it might require a bit of legwork after this, but is that we, and I hear Mark, some of the optics, is that we change the number permitted from 3 to 5 in settlement areas and 3 to 5 outside settlement areas with a minimum lot size and minimum frontage. And I don't know what those are, but that idea. So you won't end up with dense development outside the settlement areas. I'm going to say like narrow little lots in a row. Is that saleable?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I totally appreciate the point, and I've had working for rural municipalities, we've had this battle and discussion about severances and provincial push to have development focused primarily in rural settlement areas where there is no water, no services. So I totally appreciate the pushback on this. So I'm again happy to bring this forward and just making sure ultimately that we've got something that is as strong a case as possible so that we're successful when we get to the county. So I think back to the councillor's motion, so 3 to 5 per property in settlement areas, and that would just be subject to the current kind of minimum lot area standards. And then from 3 to 5 in, I'll say outside of settlement areas, but is that, I guess that will include, do you want to include waterfront areas in that 3 to 5 as well? Or, and to your point about minimum lot areas, like at one point we had talked about 3 to 4, and then you can get an additional one to go to 5 if the property is a certain frontage and lot area. So we can start out with maybe leaving less restrictions on and just go 3 to 5 for all properties fronting on, fully maintained public roads. And then you have to decide whether you want to include waterfront lots in that. That might be another nuance, I guess, if you're going to go from 3 to 5.
This is an interesting debate. That's actually what it's all about, so.
Yeah, yeah. And again, just to preface it, like we will take these recommendations, we'll put them in the draft official plan, and that will be, available for council's comment, public comment, the county. So it's not the only time you'll have the ability to kind of give some direction on this and ultimately make a decision on it.
Okay, so one more change, but don't have,
But Steve's running out of paper.
better get some more. So a minor tweaking, because the last motion, I believe that we have a mover and a seconder for is 5 in the settlement areas, 5 total, 5 outside settlement areas. However, with a minimum lot size and frontage that would be larger than settlement areas. I don't know what that is, and no waterfront. These don't apply to waterfront
Not true.
properties, all of them. And the only thing I personally over to say what would be right for a minimum frontage and a minimum lot size and the rural character of our country roads.
Yeah.
I support that motion.
Anyone have any thoughts? No? Lot size, I have no idea. Ken?
Well, can we not hash the details out later? I mean, all has to be decided in the zoning bylaw anyways, right?
Details there, like this gets the basis down and then the details later.
Okay.
Yeah, as long as it's clear that in the outside settlement areas, that we would
Larger lot.
have larger minimum lot sizes and a larger minimum frontage.
Yeah, so just to clarify that, because I got a bit confused once Mark spoke. So we want to increase that minimum lot size from what we have currently in the rural areas outside of the settlement areas, and then increase the minimum frontage as well, right?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. That's what I had the first time and then I crossed it out. Okay, perfect. Thanks. I do. I can read back the motion if you like.
Yeah,
Give it a whirl. Um,
which one?
moved by Deputy Reeve Fritsch, seconded by Councillor Thompson, that it be resolved that lost part of this. Just hang on one second. That the number of permitted consents be increased from 3 per property to 5 per property in the settlement areas, and 5 per property for those properties outside of settlement areas with an increased minimum lot size and an increased minimum frontage, and excluding waterfront properties. Have it? And just to clarify, I do have it fleshed out that it's 3 per property. So 2 plus the retained to 5 per property, which would be 4 plus the retained. So I do have that fleshed out.
Yes, and the waterfront applies to both settlement areas and outside. Yeah, we do.
Any other questions or comments? Ready for the vote? Counselor Thompson?
Yes.
Counselor
Yes.
Deputy Reed Fritz?
Yes.
Counselor Yance?
Yes.
That motion is carried. And we're on to number 2.
Moving on to number 2 here, and we'll try to make sure we're out of here by dinner time. If we through here. All right, so excuse me. The second area where we're looking for some direction following last meeting was additional dwelling or additional residential units, so secondary suites, but now really up to 3 units per property. So the direction currently in the official plan is that you can have a secondary unit on a property and it has to be within the main dwelling. Provincial rules have changed over the last, say 10 years. And now there's direction to allow up to 3 units per property. So two additional units after the primary or principal dwelling unit. And so through the OP update, council can decide or give some direction on where these units would be and how many. I will say on this particular issue, council can leave the details to the zoning bylaw update as well, which may be preferable. So I think that's why it said here restrictions may be enacted through the zoning bylaw. I think what would be good to get from council is just allowing for, you want to allow up to 3 units in all areas except maybe waterfront lots, and that you can have, either 3 in the main dwelling or 2 in the main dwelling plus a detached ARU, like either in a garage or as like a standalone, maybe a tiny home, or 1 in the main dwelling and 1 detached. So up to 3 on a property, and either 3 in one building or 2 in the main building plus 1 detached. And then whether or not you want to have it on a waterfront lot. So I laid out our recommendations here. Effectively, it's a multi-point approach, so A through D, and we're recommending effectively all of them. And like I said, some of this may just be implemented actually through the zoning bylaw, and all the official plan would say is, ARUs are permitted up to 3 per property, and the location and details will be determined through the implementing zoning bylaw. So we can kind of leave it to that level because that gives a bit more flexibility. So if somebody comes in with something a bit different, it doesn't require an amendment to the official plan. It can be dealt with more through the zoning bylaw. But again, leave it to council's discretion on all these points. So I'm just gonna, I'm gonna switch over to this Word document just so you can actually see it all together in one spot rather than it being split up over 2 pages. So
Yeah, so I think all of this, I think we should accept it as it is. And like I said, there's always ways to modify this when we go through the zoning bylaws. But as it is, it's stated, I think it's stated fairly well. Like, and if you have 3 units on one property, I don't know whether you want more than that because you're getting rather crowded.
People with it.
So, yeah, so I would make a motion to go with this. And then we'll deal with the rest of it in the zoning bylaw.
Seconder? Alan? Discussion? Tony? And
Well, I would not be in favor of including D, including any ARUs on waterfront lots. I think a lot of cases our lakes have too much on there. I mean, with our short-term rentals, we're overstretching the capacity of our septic systems now when you're renting out a house with 10 people in a house when it's only allowed with it's a 2-bedroom house. So I don't know, I think this is, and we already have people building additional structures on their waterfront lots now without permits. So once you open this up, I think you're just saying, yes, you could build an additional unit and people are just going to go build crazy. So I would be against including D. A, B, and C is fine with me, but not D.
Kirby,
Yeah, so I understand what you're saying, Ken, but it says we restrict them on waterfront lots based on minimum size and or setbacks. And like I said, once you go to the zoning bylaw, we can we can adjust these things on a zoning. Couldn't we, Patricia, right?
Currently, we have the secondary suites that are permitted and we have secondary suites that have been permitted in the waterfront areas. But yeah, we have all of the setbacks and everything in the zoning bylaws, so we can regulate it that way. Was that your question?
wait,
Just a question for clarity. So currently on waterfront, you can have the three, you can have one contained within the principal residence and one detached, one separate building. Is that correct?
Currently, we would permit a secondary unit either in the principal residence or in a ancillary or accessory building.
Okay, just one.
Yeah,
One or
just
the
one.
other. Okay, I got you. So
So I'm not certain
two.
how that's currently in the official plan and in the zoning. We're going to change now to, that term will no longer be, I think what Mark is proposing, we will switch to additional residential units, and I don't think anything actually, Mark will be.
Well,
How
I was
will we
just gonna
handle that?
Sorry, I was just gonna say, I think currently the zoning bylaw allows like sleeping cabins, I guess, more than like officially like a second unit. So they're a bit of a more restricted version of a second unit on waterfront or in the RLS zone. So I think that's where and it's called it's a guest cabin is what it's called. And so typically it's a bit more restricted and there's area limitations, size of it. I think it's 20 square meters. I'm just looking at the zoning bylaw right now. So like maximum 20 square meters. So they're intended to be quite small. So I think to the point about D, it would change because unless through the zoning bylaw we put a separate set of rules in place for ARUs and waterfront lots and limit their size as well. It would give some additional permission for additional units on waterfront lots. So I think just to expand a little bit on this, the minimum lot size or setbacks. In my mind, I think what we would do is you'd have, if you wanted an ARU, it would have to be on a larger lot, like say 2.5 acres, like a 1 hectare lot, and it would have to meet the 30-meter, 100-foot setback. So it would be fairly limited in terms of the number of lots that could actually accommodate that. Certainly a lot of the existing developed lots probably wouldn't be able to accommodate them. And so people would have to continue to rely on this sleep cabin or guest cabin provision that's been in there for, years and years. But that doesn't allow them, I think, to have like a full kitchen, for example, Patricia, right? Like it's more of a sleeping quarters than a full second unit. So it is, I mean, it is like, I think this is a bit of a distinction from the other three, where you would be, allowing something additional in waterfront lots. And if that's a concern, then I would say other municipalities, it's a mixed bag in terms of allowing ARUs on waterfront lots. So you wouldn't be going against the grain if you decided to prohibit them on waterfront lots. There is a protection element to ARUs, and that's why, at the most, I would say allowing one, but not two, if you were to permit it on waterfront parcels.
Any other questions or comments or? Tony?
Still the same. I don't want to get the conversation in a different direction on this particular item. I had a comment on C, permitting tiny homes and manufactured homes, no matter how you slice it, only that you, I don't know, Mark, if you can put that in there, because if you go back, tiny homes are relatively new, manufactured homes, which has been just sort of a name change to a standard, a CSA standard, it's been around a long time. Can you put a time restriction on there, say permit tiny homes and manufactured homes as ARUs, as long as they're fabricated and, built, they're meant in 2025 or later. So you don't end up with some 25-year-old, I have to say it, beat up old thing being drug in, much to some neighbors or multi-neighbors' great discontent.
Yeah, I think I don't know for sure if you can, it would be, if you could, it would be through the zoning bylaw. I haven't seen something like that before, so I think that requires a bit more looking. And I think the distinction between manufactured homes and modular homes and stick-built homes, that will come in through the zoning bylaw. So I think this particular point, is probably more of a zoning bylaw consideration anyway. So it's something that we have a bit of time to research and maybe do a bit of a review about what other municipalities might do, and have Dave Twitty also weigh in on it, from his perspective as the CBO, because I think it's maybe more of a legal question about whether has the ability to deny a permit based on the age of the manufactured home, if it's already, if it allows, if the zoning bylaw allows for manufactured homes at all. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. So we're just back trying to tweak what we allow on waterfront? Is that where we're at right now?
Number 2 is all Kirby.
So in regards to all this, and then to Ken's concerns, this could be easily dealt with through the zoning bylaws, I believe. Because I mean, you can make it restrictive enough that your lot has to be a certain size. Which we know in most lakes, they only have small lots. Some people have big lots, but I mean, I don't want to say I'm being restrictive to everybody, but it's just that it could be controlled by that. Unless you feel strongly about that, you would like that taken right out of there.
Well, if the motion stood, I would probably vote against it, but that shouldn't stop anybody else, so.
Right, yeah.
I just don't think it should be in there.
Yeah.
I like everything else in it. Oh, sorry.
Any other? I guess we've got a motion on the floor. Ready for the vote? Councillor Thompson,
Yes.
Councillor Hook,
No.
Deputy Reeve Fritz,
Yeah.
Councillor Yash.
No,
The motion's tied. How about yes? Number 3.
all right, so number 3, and again, just all these will come back in front of council as part of the draft of the OP update. So I think maybe once you see what's included in the actual official plan versus what we'll deal with through the zoning bylaw, at the very least, it gives you the opportunity to look at the language, and then we can do some further modifications and or direct what needs to be dealt with through the zoning bylaw. All right, so number 3 then, so this is multi-unit development in rural areas. So currently the official plan and the zoning bylaw allow for additional dwelling units, a multi-unit development in hamlet areas specifically. And so, what that typically looks like is some sort of maybe a converted building like a motel in rural areas. We see that sometimes happening. Sometimes you'll get maybe a small apartment building, but it's very unusual to see a purpose-built, 10-unit apartment building. If you look to your neighbors to the east, South Frontenac again as an example, or even Central Frontenac, the county of Frontenac is trying to, or has put in place a municipal utility corporation that's effectively going to have municipal services, water and sanitary, that could allow for, actual apartment buildings to be built, the plan is more easily and be supported by services even on smaller lots and settlement areas. So this idea about having multi-unit residential outside of settlement areas comes from, some outside interest from private parties to have apartment buildings or small multi-unit buildings, typically along major roads. This is that county provincial highway location idea coming up again, because you don't have the constraints for lot sizes and servicing that we tend to find in the hamlet areas where the lots just aren't big enough, and or there's inadequate groundwater or concerns about interference between wells and septics. So, trying to deal with the affordable housing crisis and provide more options for housing in the township. The idea of allowing multi-unit development in the township but outside of hamlets is one that's worth exploring, I think. So our recommendation was, if council wants to try to enable this, and remove the 10-unit limit in hamlet areas, which is, probably not going to be all that impactful, but to then allow for development in the rural areas, is there multi-unit development in the rural areas as well? And that would be limited to, again, major roads, and going back to the idea that we're trying to keep them in relative proximity to settlement areas to help satisfy that kind of support for the settlement areas, good connectivity, all that kind of stuff, so that people are hopefully in close proximity to grocery store, doctor's office, services, amenities, that kind of thing. So I think what we're looking for here from council is just the idea of adding a policy that will allow for multi-unit development, and then we limit the maximum number of units and put other kind of minimums in place in terms of lot area, frontage in the zoning bylaw.
Ken,
Motion to approve the recommendation on 3.
second by Tony. Comments? Ready for the vote? Counselor Thompson?
Yes.
Counselor Hook?
Yes.
Deputy Reed French?
Yes.
Counselor Yance?
Yes.
That motion is carried. On to number 4.
All right, chugging along. All right, so number 4 is a likely one that is going to be dealt with, or probably best dealt with, through the zoning bylaw. That's how we dealt with it in Napanee, for example, when we went through this or similar exercise probably about 6-7 years ago. The tiny homes is a little bit of a different take depending on what council's view is on the aesthetics of tiny homes. But really it comes down to minimum unit size or minimum dwelling size, which we're otherwise trying to get away from. So the zoning bylaw update in the future would take out the current minimum, our recommendation would be to take out the minimum dwelling size as part of the next update to the zoning bylaw. But council can still, I think, provide some feedback now on what to do with kind of these non-traditional built forms, as they do provide an opportunity for perhaps some increased affordability in terms of housing units. So I'll go through the three types that are kind of, I guess, at issue. Before I do that, I'll just say one of the Councillor Fitch, I think, had provided a summary of, CSA standards, how modular manufactured park model trailers, how they're regulated in the province from a code perspective. So that was very helpful, and that's on the agenda or in the agenda package as well. So I'll just start out by saying municipalities typically treat modular homes the same as stick-built homes. Modular homes are just typically built like in a factory, or components are built in a factory, and then a foundation still poured on site, and the modular homes are installed on that foundation, just like you would build a stick-built home with framing and everything on top of foundation. So there's no real need to distinguish between modular and stick-built. In the zoning bylaw, they're already effectively treated the same. So tiny homes, manufactured homes, and then park model trailers. So tiny homes, we're recommending that they be permitted as primary dwellings and ARUs in rural and hamlet residential areas, and then permitted as ARUs in waterfront residential areas. So I think we're comfortable, I guess, from a planning perspective, of the use of tiny homes. The concern, I guess, would be that the aesthetically or the visual doesn't necessarily jive in all contexts with the existing development. But it is perhaps a more affordable form of housing that could open up opportunities for people that don't exist today. So I think it's more of an aesthetic consideration for council than anything else.
Tim,
I like what is suggested, except that one line of ARUs and waterfront residential. I think I state my position before. I know a lot of people would be against that, having a tiny home as an additional residential unit on a waterfront lot.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
you make another motion?
yeah, sure, I'll make a motion to that effect.
Is there a second? Helen? Sorry?
I think we've just reviewed tiny homes to start with, haven't we, Mark?
Yes, yeah. So
And so the recommendation refers to both to all tiny homes, manufactured home and park model trailers. So do we want to let Mark go through the other two types before we make a recommendation, or? That's correct, right, Mark? You just
Yeah,
went
it
through
is.
tiny
Yeah,
homes?
yeah. So I didn't, yeah, if you wanted to kind of make the decision on, or stake out the ground, I guess, on tiny homes, and then we can go on to the manufactured homes and the park model trailers. So yeah, maybe we'll put a pin in the motion and then,
Is that okay? Okay.
okay. All right, so the manufactured homes. So as Councillor Fish had summarized, the manufactured homes are, I'll call it a step down, not to rate them, but to step down from modular homes if we're thinking about anything that's not stick built. So manufactured homes are typically single story. They can come in on trailers, for example, like on running gear, and be positioned in place, similar to like what we'll call traditional, historically, a mobile home. Unlike a modular home, which would come in, say, typically on a transport, and you've got like wall sections or like rooms that come in and they're lifted into place onto a foundation. Manufactured homes are all in one units. You could join like two of them together or three of them together, but that's the distinction. However, they can be, year-round, functional, like fully insulated, and help be fully functional for year-round living. And then, again, from a visual standpoint, they can be almost indistinguishable from a stick-built home, but varying types that you can get. So, there may be, warranted or not, a difference in kind of the visual aesthetic of them compared to a stick built or even a modular home. However, there is the opportunity that they could be potentially more, either A, more affordable, or B, able to be put in place more easily, or effectively built more quickly. So they are worthy of consideration, I think, and so our recommendation had been to permit them as a primary dwelling or ARUs in the rural and hamlet residential areas. Not as ARUs or primary dwellings in waterfront areas, for a few different reasons, but somewhat visual / aesthetic, and I think some of it just may not necessarily suit the terrain or the difficult topography of waterfront lots as well. And also just setback issues. Manufactured homes typically aren't as, they're essentially rectangles, so you're not able to kind of allow them to fit as well on more challenging lots where you might need to adjust the building shape to meet setbacks a bit better. So that's the recommendation on the manufactured homes component. And then lastly, the park model trailers. This is really, as per the summary of the different types, a seasonal built form, so not typically meant to be lived in year round. And so for that reason, we're not recommending that they be permitted anywhere except in seasonal campgrounds or mobile home parks, which is consistent with the current official plan approach. So the recommendation is permitting tiny homes as primary dwellings and ARUs in rural and hamlet residential areas, and permit as ARUs in waterfront residential areas. And manufactured homes, permit them as primary dwellings and ARUs in rural and residential areas. Let me just highlight that, was just, they're not entirely clear.
Ken?
Are you entertaining a motion?
Sure.
Okay. So, accepting the recommendation. So in essence, the manufactured homes and the tiny homes would have the same requirements as the manufactured homes. Identical. So we're basically taking out ARUs and waterfront residential. I think otherwise they're the same if you take that out.
So you're making a motion that we,
Yes.
seconder? Helen? Comments? Tony?
Thank you, Henry. Yeah, so a comment, and certainly understand tiny homes and manufactured homes. Both can have obviously we have a need for housing. So where I'm coming from is not the issue of a smaller footprint, right? It's more that in both these cases, they're going to be on full foundations, et cetera. That would be a requirement. Anyway, because they all come in, for example, tiny homes, there's some that are strictly on wheels. They're and are not sat on foundations. So, and there's tiny homes that go on a foundation. So, in the same thing is, so when it comes to aesthetics, because the point I'm trying to make here is, and I think smaller footprints are quite saleable, but people will also be so concerned about aesthetics. So and how you can regulate aesthetics, I'm not sure, because I don't know. And maybe that's in the zoning bylaw, you can. Because once you say, okay, we will go with tiny homes and we'll go with manufactured homes. And when you say manufactured homes, and in particular, more than tiny, but when you say manufactured homes, there's a huge range of what you can get for one that's completely indistinguishable from a bungalow you would have somewhere to one that looks almost like an office trailer. So, and both can be on foundations. So in terms of aesthetics, within that, I guess, category or standard of what's made, I don't know how you work your way through to make sure we sort of still provide small homes, eh, but make sure we're looking after the interests of all the other property owners as well. Do you have any suggestions, Mark? Like,
Yeah.
you can't sort of pick and choose, but I mean, you also have to make sure it all fits in and people are happy with the overall development in their area.
Agreed, yeah, and I don't disagree that it's not a um not a clear-cut issue. And we are, I was saying this to Patricia earlier, like with some of these things, we're pretty restricted in what we can say or how we control the aesthetics of building. So I don't think there's really, unless Dave Twitty from a like a building code perspective is able to draw a line somewhere and say, homes before manufactured homes before a certain date are not permitted based on such and such provision in the code. Um, I don't, there is not a tool that the municipality would have to direct and provide any kind of requirements around aesthetics. You can certainly have an official plan policies that recommend or support, manufactured homes that are, an appearance indistinguishable from modular or stick-built homes. But A, I wouldn't recommend kind of getting into that level of detail in the official plan, and B, it really wouldn't have any teeth. And then in the zoning bylaw, similarly, all we're doing is regulating the type of use, and where it is located on the property essentially. So I think if council makes the decision to support or to permit manufactured homes, particularly as primary dwellings, I would say if maybe a middle ground here on both tiny homes and manufactured homes, if aesthetic property value concerns, if those are significant driving forces here, if you only permit them as ARUs, that does open the door to making sure that they're located. We can write in the zoning effectively that the ARUs are located, behind the main dwelling or, certain setbacks from the road, those types of things. So then you have a bit more control over the default location and visual appearance of those things by virtue of the fact that they're maybe just not readily visible from the street. So I think that's something you can get with the ARUs versus if they're primary dwellings, it would be very difficult to put that kind of control in place for that type of thing.
Tony,
Thank you, Mark, just for the comments. And I guess that's where I was trying to understand is both with tiny homes and manufactured homes. Once we state that there is and there's the standards they have to follow, I'm going to say CSA standards, manufacturing standards, and a smaller footprint obviously comes with tiny homes, that once you say yes, you have no way. You get you must take whatever can be built according to that standard. And if the standard changes, you still continue. You have to accept it, right? Yeah. So in some cases, some people may not be happy.
So if I can just, I guess to add to that, so one thing when we get back into what are we actually implementing through the official plan and versus what's going to be implemented at the zoning stage, I would say that we aren't like the park model trailers, if we stick with this here, that they're going to continue to only be permitted in seasonal campgrounds. I would hazard to say that we're not actually going to change anything in the official plan because we wouldn't recommend getting into defining tiny homes or manufactured homes in the official plan. We would leave it to the zoning bylaw. And then through the zoning bylaw, we put definitions in for these two uses. or add them to the existing definition of a dwelling unit. And then we would go on to say, this is where these types of dwellings are permitted and what their performance provisions are. So I think at best, as I think about how we would write it in the official plan, it'll probably mention, the policy would mention, tiny homes and then other types of dwelling units will be permitted in accordance with the zoning bylaw, with an eye towards, maintaining, the character of the location in which they're located, whether it's hamlets or, rural character, those types of things. So I think this is one where there will be the opportunity for council to come back and see it again before it's enacted in any way, shape, or form, and most likely in the zoning bylaw.
So we have a motion on the table, right?
Yes.
Yes.
For A and,
The motion is that
Yep.
we are accepting the recommendation, which is options A and B. And you want it changed to include, so not permit them as ARUs in the waterfront residential areas. Okay,
That's the motion, you know.
yes.
And there's Patricia.
Thank you. I just wanted to take this opportunity to mention two other comments that were received. One was regarding questions regarding ARUs. It was just a question from a property owner on Scutamata with questions regarding the number of additional residential units. She mentioned questions regarding sea cans being used, particularly for bunkies. I did respond to those questions. And then there was also comments received from Mr. Frederick Kurz. They were the same questions and comments that were received on September the 9th and included in that agenda package. Just so council knows, those were the comments that were received. Thank you.
Ken,
If I could just speak in favor of the motion, I mean, we hear all the time about changing the social fabric or maintaining the social fabric and the aesthetics. And another thing, I don't have anything against tiny homes, but not on the waterfront because I think it's opening the door or potentially could open the door to short-term rentals as well. And not that I have anything against short-term rentals because we've been very lucky. We haven't had any complaints. I don't think this term of council at all. And I think when we get down to number 5, we're probably going to leave it as is, status quo. But I think by voting in favor of allowing tiny homes as part of an ARU on waterfront residential, we're opening that door. So.
Helen,
Yes, I agree with Councillor Hook. I think that as soon as you allow, somebody has a lot and then they put a little tiny home on it and then they put another little tiny home on it and another little one, and now they have 3 cottages.
any other comments, questions? Ready for the vote? Tony,
So the current motion on the table is the recommendation, which still includes waterfront?
No,
It doesn't?
not in.
I didn't remember what that was taken out.
I can
Can you read-
reread it.
Yes,
Yep.
please.
So moved by Councillor Hook, seconded by Councillor Yance, that it be resolved that we accept the recommendation, which is options A and B, with the exception of permitting ARUs in waterfront residential areas.
Tony,
Is that correct?
Specifically, I was thinking of tiny homes as an ARU in waterfront residential.
Okay.
yeah, I guess it's not meant, manufactured homes aren't mentioned.
They were,
Right.
yeah, that's why I didn't include it because they're already not mentioned in manufacturer's home. So, but I just added that. So with the exception of permitting tiny homes as an ARU in waterfront residential areas.
Did you have a
So-
comment, Tony?
I had a comment there. Does that recommendation then includes that it's being implemented through the zoning bylaw? I just want to be sure of that. Okay, thank you.
I paraphrased. Yep.
Any
I
further-
believe that Mark has his hand up.
Oh, Mark, go ahead.
Sorry, just a quick correction to my recommendation. So this should technically be options A, I, and B, and BI because they were kind of a either or under A. So if you're under the tiny homes, you're either doing Roman numeral 1 or Roman numeral 2. So I think just for the sake of the motion, should be options A1 and B1, I guess.
Yes.
Thanks, Mark. That does clarify that. I was a bit confused there. So is
was-
council okay with that? Okay, fantastic.
Any other? Yes, we're ready for a vote. Councillor Thompson,
Yes.
Councillor Hook.
Yes.
Deputy Reeve Fritz.
Yes.
Councillor Yash.
Yes.
That motion is carried.
All right. Moving on. Thank you. So last but not least, short-term accommodations. So we had a bit of a discussion last time. I think I had a fairly clear understanding of what council's attitude was towards SDAs, and that range from leaving it as is, treating them effectively as residential units, and cottage rentals have been going on since cottages were created, and we're not going to change it now, all the way up to prohibiting, regulating, licensing them. So based on the feedback received to date, and I will acknowledge, there were public comments, I think, that flagged concerns on both sides. One, some raising concerns about STAs and potential negative impacts on neighbors, and others that didn't want to see more regulation added, and that it isn't a widespread issue, and it's more of a few bad apples or a few problematic situations, and that the municipality has tools in place to try to deal with noise complaints, for example. So given that prohibiting, regulating, and licensing isn't necessarily going to solve the problem, because it relies a lot on having staff resources to pursue enforcement and or run a licensing program. Our recommendation is to essentially maintain the status quo and not to separately define or regulate short-term accommodations.
Okay. Comments? Questions? Motion? Helen?
To remain, just to keep the status quo that we have.
Seconder, Councillor Hook. Questions, comments? Ready for the vote? Councillor Thompson,
Yes.
Councillor Hook,
Yes.
Deputy Reeve Fritz,
Yes.
Councillor Yash.
Yes.
And that motion is carried. Thank you, Mark.
All right, well, thank you very much for your directions, very helpful, and look forward to bringing a draft official plan back to council later this fall.
Good, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we're on to making memories.
Okay, so this agenda item was on the last agenda where there was a request for an exemption to the noise bylaw for the Making Memories Fall in Flinton event, as well as permission to use a fire pit on municipal property during the event. So I do have some additional information. Council deferred a decision on that request pending some more details. So the exemption to the noise bylaw is requested on that day from 12 noon until 5 p.m. So in the afternoon. With respect to the fire pit, it is proposed that they will be using a propane fire pit located on township property, not within county property, nor within the trails themselves. So it would be strictly on township property. Now, I did forward this information to the fire chief, and he says he has no issue with it so long as all ULC clearances are met and there is no risk of anyone getting burned or falling into the fire pit itself. So those were his comments for council to consider.
Hello.
What's a gas fire pit, like a propane fire pit? Not quite sure I know what that
Usually
is.
some sort of cast iron arrangement with a burner.
Yeah, they're a standalone unit that's, obviously this one will be portable and will be placed on the property, I assume with chairs. My assumption is chairs around the pit for people to enjoy. And it would be fired just with propane. They usually stand, like, and I don't think they're low to the ground. They usually are, like, they stand up a little bit.
So much like a barbecue.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any,
Yeah,
be any
it's shorter.
necessity of installation inspection or anything that,
No,
no
no,
danger to the public falling into it or
I don't think
tripping
so.
over it or,
No, and
I
like,
don't know,
and like Patricia mentioned, there, you can use them on your deck. Like a lot of people do have them on their deck.
it's
So,
just
yeah,
it's not a great big.
and they'll use,
Sure.
no, no.
Kirby,
I'll make a motion to approve this request with the fire pit and the noise.
seconder, Counselor Hook. Comments? Ready for the vote? Counselor Thompson,
Yes.
Counselor Hook,
Yes.
Deputy Reeve Fritz,
Yes.
Counselor Yash.
Yes.
That motion is carried. Disclosure of pecuniary interest. None noted. I've got a Verizon report. Closed meeting was held at 12:15 PM today pursuant to section 239 sub 2 of the Municipal Act as amended, at which recommendations were made to adopt closed meeting minutes of September 17th, 2025, to receive a letter of resignation from a municipal employee and to provide direction to the CAO clerk treasurer for filling the vacancy. I need a motion to resolve that the recommendations from the closed meeting be adopted. Counselor Thompson, Counselor Yash, comments? Ready for the vote. Counselor Thompson,
Yes.
Counselor Hook.
Yes.
Deputy Reeve Fritz,
Yes.
Counselor Yash.
Yes.
That motion is carried. On the page. Hey. No delegation of petitions. We got a request from the Land O'Lakes Lions Club for a noise bylaw exemption to allow for fireworks display following the Santa Claus parade. Counselor Thompson,
Make a motion approved.
seconder, Counselor Hook, comments? Ready for the vote. Counselor Thompson.
Yes.
Counselor Hook.
Yes.
Deputy Reeve Fritz.
Yes.
Counselor Yash.
Yes.
And that motion is carried. Now we've got a request from Dean Pettit for a rental fee waiver for Flinton Hall rink for ball hockey. Christine,
Thank you. I have a few more details that I can put with that. So the previous request to council for the Ball Hockey League, which happened earlier this year, that concluded, that was over and done. And it's my understanding that some folks that participated in that wanted to continue on. So there's been advertisements around the community, letting folks know that this is happening. It's for the youth. And I believe they're running it one time per week. And there is a request to waive the fees associated with the rental of the rink. There are no costs for the children to join this league. It's completely free. Volunteers are running it for the children. Yeah, they're not asking anything in return.
Ken,
Motion to approve the request.
Counselor Yance. Any further comments? Ready for the vote? Counselor Thompson,
Yes.
Counselor Hook,
Yes.
Deputy Reeve Fish,
Yes.
Counselor Yash.
Yes.
That motion is carried. Now we got a resolution from the Township of Bonnfield, support for the resolution urging the Canadian Union of Postal Workers and the federal government to promptly return to the negotiating table. but to reconcile this, flyer deliveries, etc. Councillor Yance,
Motion to receive and support.
second by Councillor Thompson. Comments? Ready for the vote. Councillor Thompson,
Yes.
Councillor Hook.
Yes.
Deputy Reeve Fritsch.
Yes.
Councillor Yance.
Yes.
That motion is carried. Now we got a resolution from the city of North Bay seeking support for the resolution urging the government of Ontario to make Northern Ontario Resource Development Support Program a permanent fixture. Deputy Reeve Fritsch,
Motion to receive and support?
seconder. Councillor Thompson, comments? Ready for the vote. Councillor Thompson,
Yes.
Councillor Hook,
Yes.
Deputy Reeve Fritsch.
Yes.
Councillor Yance.
Yes.
That motion is carried. Now we got a resolution from the city of Kitchener, endorsement for the resolution requesting province of Ontario to amend the municipal act to permit municipalities the ability to grandfather out paper billing as a default option. Councillor Hook,
A question for our CAO, how this would affect us negatively or positive? No effect at all?
It would be a positive change. The legislation specifies how we are able to deliver notices and the method of that delivery. And right now it's strictly
paper,
paper. So it would allow for the e-delivery of notices.
electronic, yeah.
So then if somebody wanted a paper receipt, we would have the ability to charge them extra, but that would be optional though, right?
It would be optional
Yeah,
and
so
it would
probably
be
wouldn't.
addressed in our user fees
Yeah.
and charges bylaw.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you. Motion to support?
Councillor Hook, seconded by Deputy Reeve Fritsch. Comments? Ready for the vote. Councillor Thompson,
Yes.
Councillor Hook.
Yes.
Deputy Reeve Fritsch.
Yes.
Councillor Yance.
Yes.
That motion is carried. Now we got a resolution from the Township of Woolwich, support for the resolution calling the Government of Canada and the Minister of Indigenous Services to reintroduce legislation to ensure First Nations have the right to clean and safe drinking water in the fall of 2025. I think everybody has that right. Helen,
A motion to receive.
second by Councillor Thompson. Comments? Ready for the vote. Councillor Thompson,
Yes.
Councillor Hook.
Yes.
Deputy Reeve Fritsch.
Yeah.
Councillor Yance.
Yes.
That motion is carried. Now we got a resolution from the Township of West Lincoln, support for the Ministry's consultation on the future of community natural gas expansion. Councillor Hook,
Motion to receive?
seconded. Deputy Reeve Fritsch. Questions, comments? Ready for the vote. Councillor Thompson,
Yes.
Councillor Hook.
Yes.
Deputy Reeve Fritsch.
Yes.
Councillor Yance.
Yes.
That motion is carried. Now we got matters for information. We got a fair number here. 7 matters for information. Motion to receive. Councillor Thompson. Councillor Yance. Questions? Ready for the vote. Councillor Tony.
I just have a couple, keep them short comments. Just one on 9.6, the OPP or it looks like a 11% cap for 2026. Pay now, pay later, it looks like. Anyway, 9.1, just on the County Lennox and Addington County Council meetings, I just want to bring a highlight out here too. Because one of the agenda items that was discussed at that meeting was high-density social housing. So there were a couple different resolutions at the meeting. One was related to specific to the south end of our county in Loyalist Township, where there was a resolution that council directs staff to proceed with the construction process for a social housing project on the Church Street property in Loyalist Township, including they consult Loyalist Township staff to I guess, work with neighboring property owners and projects to determine how big that might be. So the size of it and the investment has not been determined yet. There was also a second resolution on high-density social housing that directed county staff to develop the Addington Highlands and the Stone Mills properties as shovel-ready for fourplex social housing units. So that was a social housing unit in Stone Mills Township and a social housing unit in Addington Highlands, both preliminary footprint would be a fourplex. And shovel ready. I also contact our Director of Infrastructure Services for the county just to make sure I had my understanding of shovel ready, what it meant. And it means sort of the rezoning, the permits, the design, etc., are prepared so that the project, and then the project would essentially sit on the shelf until we are ready for construction, which is usually when there is an opportunity to take advantage of a grant or some funding. So I would expect, I think for all of the municipalities involved, this is, and yes, it's not a lot of housing units, but it is, and there's no decision, to make it clear for the record, there's no decision yet to actually
No
build them.
milestone.
But there is a decision to work on property preparation. So it's a positive initiative that's started at the county level. So we'll just see how that evolves. Thank you.
Ken,
This is very good news, and when I heard about it in the press first, I thought it was super good news, and I just wanted to thank Deputy Reeve Fritsch for bringing forward that motion and County Council for supporting it. It's another step in the right direction. I mean, we haven't had additional social housing up here for 20-some years probably, and we all know it was an election issue that people wanted, so I think it's a good step forward and very positive for the county and Addington Highlands.
any other comments on the information items? Ready for, we got a motion. Ready for the vote. Councillor Thompson,
Yes.
Councillor Huck.
Yes.
Deputy Reeve Fritsch.
Yes.
Councillor Yash.
Yes.
That motion is carried. Committees and boards. The head committee recommendations from September 17th. Councillor Huck.
Thanks, Reeve Hogg. There was 3 recommendations that came out of the head meeting, and I could just briefly talk about each one. There was a presentation to the township spearheaded by Marlene McLean, and but the artist was Pat Dubik. She was here and she presented 3 barn quilts to the township free of charge. These are waterproof artistic boards that are quite beautiful, and one will go on the community shed. I'm not quite sure where the other 2 are going. Where the barn quilts are going, 2 of them?
One of them down here at
Down here?
Avery's place,
Oh, okay.
wasn't it?
So.
Well, just wondering the location of the barn
Maybe
quilts,
not.
the
Yeah,
3.
they all have it.
Christine
being
knows.
determined. One is definitely going on the community garden shed, I believe. And then 2 of the others are still to be determined as
Oh,
where they
okay.
will
Okay.
go. One had to been talked about going in one of the playgrounds or at the Addington Highlands Community Center in Denby, but we haven't really,
Okay.
that location is yet to be determined, but. we
Good,
do have to-
okay. So we have 3 that have been donated, and the head committee would put a motion forward to see if the township would actually send a letter of thanks, because these are quite valuable from the township. I don't know if you'd want to mail that letter, but I do have Pat's email address that might be more appropriate. Okay. The second, do we want to take each one in turn or just all 3 at once?
Whichever.
We do all 3 at once? Okay. The second was the recommendation to adopt a business recognition policy or recognizing milestones of either new businesses setting up in the area or celebrating businesses for every 10 years of business. And this would be a certificate printed at the township and framed, and then we could, no timeline as far as presentation, but anyone could nominate a business for this award or the business could, just contact the township and we could do the presentation at their place of business or here with probably a few photos, just to recognize, just something else we can do for businesses. And the third recommendation was our annual Community Builder Award, a call for nominations, which will be advertised starting October 10th, with the deadline being October 31st. Recipients will be chosen at the next AHEAD meeting at the beginning of November. Similar to other years, it'll be on our website and Facebook, so forth, and probably in the Frontenac News, right? Yes. Okay.
So we need a motion, I guess, to receive those minutes and adopt the recommendations, correct? Councillor Hook, Councillor Thompson. Any further questions or comments? Ready for the vote? Councillor Thompson,
Yes.
Councillor Hook.
Yeah.
Deputy Reeve Fritz.
Yeah.
Councillor Yash.
Yes.
That motion is carried. Now we've got a joint fire committee minutes from June the 6th. A motion to receive those. Councillor Thompson. Did I miss something?
I was still writing.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's good.
Councillor Yash. Hey, go ahead. Any questions on those minutes? Ready for the vote? Councillor Thompson,
Yes.
Councillor Hook,
Yes.
Deputy Refresh,
Yes.
Councillor Yash.
Yes.
That motion is carried. Okay, reports of officers. Brett's not here, but we've got a written report. Any questions? Motion to receive the report, Councillor Thompson, Deputy Refresh. Ready for the vote, Councillor Thompson,
Yes.
Councillor Hook.
Yes.
Deputy Refresh,
Yes.
Councillor Yash.
Yes.
That motion is carried. Now, there's a Intera proposal. I wasn't at the meeting, but only you were.
Okay, so. Better turn that button on. Yeah, so I'll just,
This is for recycling and transportation.
yeah, so it's related to, it was our waste management, waste diversion committee that met last week at, Brett initiated that meeting because the company that is contracted, who has a major contract to haul recycling, Mterra, had approached, our township had approached Brett to see if we were interested in actually hauling it, because they would normally be hauling it through, because they are a contractor that does haul. So the group discussed it and we went through all the costing of it. So these costs that are shown here, this proposal includes, for example, if you just looked at Hartsmere, because it's a little bit remote, along a lot of traveling, but it's an example. So that proposal includes all the wages, including the burden rate, the overhead for our employees who are involved in hauling, the operators. It includes our equipment rate, which includes all costs for equipment, you know, the fuel, the depreciation, et cetera, for the trucks. It would be the same rate as I believe that we would charge the county when we maintain county roads. It includes the cost of bins, because we currently have the bins, but it includes the cost of bins sort of amortized or depreciated over 10 years, which is just a conservative lifetime of a bin. And it includes some annual maintenance for each bin that would be required for waste site. And it also includes a spare bin, because when we go to a waste site to take away recycling, we exchange a bin, an empty one for a full one.
Yeah.
So we have to run around with an extra bin. So it includes, so it includes all of the bin costs. At this working group level, we went through all the costs, we had a good debate about it, and we also felt that if we went ahead, it should only be for 1 year to see how this all works, because essentially we're a subcontractor in this arrangement. And our costing here does not show us losing anything. It's not, we're not subsidizing this with this costing model. The total dollar value is not shown here. I'm going to, in an open session for contractual reasons. But it's showing, these costs are all based on, for each specific waste site, we broke down, Brett had all of these costs, and that's why there's different rates for different sites.
Mhm.
That's a quick overview of that.
Questions? Yes, we need a motion to approve, yes, accept.
So the recommendation from the working group was to provide, because we haven't provided our costing to MTerra yet. So the recommendation is to receive the report and to provide the per lift pricing for hauling of the recycling to MTerra, letting them know we're only interested in a 1-year period for their consideration.
Correct.
You're a mover, Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Hook. Any questions? Ready for the vote? Councillor Thompson,
Yes.
Councillor Hook.
Yes.
Deputy Reeve Fritsch.
Yes.
Councillor Yanish.
Yes.
That motion is carried. Excuse me. Nothing from the building inspector. CAO clerk, Integrity Commissioner Services. Your recommendation.
Thank you. Yeah, so this is just a follow-up on the matter that was brought to council in July. There's been a bit of back and forth between the other lower tier municipalities, and the county brought back, the clerk of the county brought back a report on September 24th to county council. And at that meeting, they had resolved to extend the current contract with Airden Bearless for Integrity Commissioner Services for 2 years. And that a clause be added to that extension agreement to ensure flexibility to amend the contract pending any changes to legislation. So back in July, council had resolved to participate in an RFP with the county and the other lower tiers. Given that the county is no longer participating in the RFP, I just want confirmation from council that we are okay to extend the current contract. I took it that the intent of council was to sort of follow suit with the county to make it consistent for county councilors who participate at both levels.
What's your wishes? Ken?
I have a question. Do we have any indication what this is going to cost? I know there's no, like, a lot of stuff starting in 2026, right? Like the municipal training and everything like this. There's no,
It's really difficult
yeah,
to
it's all
know.
big unknown.
The only cost we incur is if the integrity commissioner receives a complaint.
Okay.
We've received 2 complaints since we've entered into this contract, and I think we've renewed it a couple of times now. I'd have to go back to see when we first started. And I think we've probably spent about $5,000 in the duration of that. So not a lot, but again, we could have a year if we ever have a major investigation on the part of the integrity commissioner, it could have a significant impact for sure.
We have no control over any of that. Complaint could come no matter who you had or how.
That's right.
Kirby,
Make a motion to approve the recommendation.
seconder, Councillor Hook. Further comments? Ready for the vote? Councillor Thompson,
Yes.
Councillor Hook.
Yes.
Deputy Reeve Fritsch,
Yes.
Councillor Yanish.
Yes.
That motion is carried. Anything else? Planning Secretary, Municipal Signage Project. Looks good.
Thank you. I apologize, there was no report included on the agenda for the signage project. I had prepared one and didn't include it. And it would just summarize that the signage project was ready for request for quotations. It included some installation of a few of the signs for the county roads, the highways, and the medical center. The it was done with a bit of a sample for each sign included in the proposal. The fire hall was excluded in Denby from the request for quotations because we were going to have that sign done separately and have it look very similar to the Caladar Berry Fire Hall sign. So the request for quotations was included in the package for your review. And if it is approved, then we would get that out very shortly. I did put a date in there, but I really am looking for a closing date, or you can leave that up to council and we can, or to staff, and we can just, depending on the date that we get it in the newspaper, we can set the closing date.
Any-
So really just looking for any comments on it, anything you've seen that you want to bring up, so.
Tony,
First of all, it's really nice to see this draft or request for proposal out here. I know it's been a journey, and certainly comments or thank you to all the staff who've been involved in it and everyone else, and certainly council's provided lots of input into it previously as well. So thank you. I do one question is Patricia, when you look at the sign material, it's 1/8 inch aluminum, which is fine. There's different products. I'm not debating that product. My question is, do you know whether because they're quoting installation as well, whether you require any structural support behind a 1/8 inch piece of aluminum that's spanning in some cases
6
8
feet?
feet? So it's I don't expect you to answer it here because not all staff here are present. They probably could answer it, but it's just you wouldn't want an extra in there when they bid on it and they say, well, by the way, you have to put some sort of framework behind it to
Some angle
support it
there.
on these large signs. Yeah, that's all. So it's just a question regarding just to ensure that any support for the large ones
I'm sure it's gonna need something.
would be included in that.
Sure. Yeah, well,
Yeah. And the only other comment I have is on closing date. I'd leave that up to staff, based on what your staff would know better as to the timelines for making this all work.
Ken,
I think it looks great too. It's going to be nice to see all this done. And yeah, I think the design looks great. It's going to stand out. It's not overly elaborate, so people are going to be able to read it right away.
They
So
want.
big letters. So yeah, it's great. I like it.
Any other questions or comments? Yes, we don't have a motion, have we?
No.
Need a motion?
So,
Go ahead.
I make a motion to receive the input at today's meeting and request staff to proceed with the RFQ.
Seconder? Counselor Yance? Further comments? Ready for the vote? Counselor Thompson?
Yes.
Counselor Hook?
Yes.
Deputy Reeve Fresh?
Yes.
Counselor Yance?
Yes.
That motion is carried. Thank you, Patricia. That's been a lot of work. Okay, Christmas parades already. Well, it's almost Thanksgiving. Staff reports for Christmas parades. The only thing I can say is, as long as I'm available, my trailer's available. But if they use it to carry me away or something. Anyway. What's your wish?
so yeah, I was thinking about the Christmas parades as we had that one request come to council. So I was just thinking about different ways that we could prepare for that, and was thinking about the AHEAD committee, and unfortunately had missed the AHEAD committee meeting when I thought of this. So I was thinking that it could be a task of the AHEAD committee for the future years. And of course, a budget looking for a budget to perhaps purchase some items, and thinking of other municipalities that have economic departments and recreational departments and staff for doing that type of thing and participating in different parades. So I was wondering if council wanted to consider tasking the head committee with planning and participating in the Christmas parade. And I'm certain that some of those community representatives that are participate in our head committee would be interested in helping in, with the parade and participating in it as well. And that's not to say that the township representatives and the employees and families members that have participated and may want to participate in the future, couldn't do so as well. The Christmas parade sort of were the initiative of a family member of township staff in the beginning. And due to constraints that happened, after a couple of years of planning and doing this, staff sort of took it over and scaled it down. And we had to steal from different staff members and different council members and to get a float together. And yes, thankfully we had last year and the year before had the Reeves trailer. So I'm proposing that we get a budget together and get some banners and some decorations and not a trailer at this point. I still propose to use the Reeves trailer.
That
And
time of year, my trailer
decorate
should-
in advance
It's not snowed in.
of
it's
the
available.
parades and have that available and reach out to the head committee and see if they would like to participate as well. And I gave some samples of some different items that we could get. And I was looking at some pricing and I'm talking something like $1,200 or $1,300.
Comments, questions?
My
Tony.
only comment, anything we could do to sort of help and support our Christmas parade
That's-
decorating and participation initiative is all the better. So yeah, we certainly could use decorations. It's always it's a scramble on both ends, north and south, to get it all together.
Ken,
I make a motion that we receive the report and leave it up to staff's discretion to purchase whatever they need with the ideas put forward.
out of the budgets available. Second by Kirby, any questions or comments? Ready for the vote, Counselor Thompson?
Yes.
Counselor Hook?
Yes,
Deputy Reeve Fritz?
Yeah.
Counselor Yash?
Yes.
That motion is carried. Nothing from the deputy treasurer, nothing from the fire chief. Appointees, anything? Downstream?
Last two meetings have been interesting. We've had two hearings in a row, so they've been interesting, so.
Approval of the accounts. September the 30th. Deputy Reeve Fresh, Counselor Thompson, any questions? Ready for the vote, Counselor Thompson?
Yes.
Counselor Hook?
yes.
Deputy Reeve Fresh,
Yes.
Counselor Yance?
Yes.
That motion is carried. Member statements. Ken?
I just have a quickie on the Tall Pines Ride, which was held on Saturday outside the township office here. That was the inaugural Tall Pines Forest Trail Ride, which started at the forest trails and went out various township roads. Some of them were quite nasty. The Wilson Hills Road, the unmaintained portion, was it was challenging to say the least, but nobody got hurt. And it was an eye opener for some of the more adventurous cyclists that thought, wow, this is pretty easy going back here. But yeah, they got woken up on some of that. So it was a 45-kilometer ride and it went through almost all the way down to Actinolite, continued back to the forest trails for a final loop. And I wanted to thank Rob Plumley for the amazing amount of work this man did to organize this. It's a big deal. I mean, he was up so early in the morning. He was here so early with a crew of volunteers and he was always the last one to leave. Of course, you know, the county has several of these rides and hopefully this will continue, maybe not next year, but in a couple of years. It did attract 150 riders from all over. They came as far as Oshawa, Bowmanville, Kingston, Belleville. Some said there were some people from Quebec as well. I didn't see that, but I don't doubt it. So it was, the Lions Club were very helpful. They provided 2 barbecues, one down in Actinolite and one up here. The Flinton Rec Club sold beer at the end of the ride, not at the start. Thank goodness.
Good straw.
And, it was great for the volunteers. There was a lot of volunteers and a perfect way to showcase Addington Highlands with the fall colors. And a lot of people said, I didn't even know this place exists, especially the forest trails. So they were told that there's cross-country skiing in the winter. So hopefully overall we get
Bring-
more people coming up.
People, yeah.
So I also want to thank Dave Twitty because he went the extra mile to make sure there were no dogs at large, unleashed, because that would ruin, somebody got bit. So he went out and he checked those problem areas. So I wanted to thank Dave because everything was perfectly successful.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Well organized.
Yeah, it was.
Thank you. Any new business? Ken?
And
Tony, go ahead.
I just have a quick update on social house, Prince Edward and Lennox and Addington Social Services. Just for anyone who wasn't aware, last Wednesday, October 1st, there was an all-day session hosted by PELUS, which is the Prince Edward, Lennox and Addington Social Services. It was a housing and homelessness planning day. About 50 plus people, a composition of staff and members of council from Prince Edward County and at the Lennox, at the LNA County level, and at all the 4 lower tier municipalities in Lennox and Addington County. An entire day of spending most of the morning gaining an understanding of the homelessness issue and all the issues and challenges and statistics around it. And the afternoon at, I would just say, roundtable discussions, some brainstorming, throwing out lots of ideas, lots of innovative ideas, some out-of-the-box ideas. All of this input will feed into the update of the housing and homelessness plan. The update will be next year. It is to be in place. The update, we've had one for the last 10 years, 2014 to 24. So this is the the update, the major update of it. There may be other additional sessions like this, but this was a great collaboration, certainly, and it was nice to see everybody there and represented. So, thank you.
Okay, we've got a bylaw to authorize the execution of an agreement between Circular Materials Ontario and the Corporation of the Township of Addington Highlands. 3 readings.
I'll give that 3 readings.
Thompson, second by Deputy Reeve Fritsch. Ready for the vote. Councillor Thompson.
Yes.
Councillor Hook.
Yes.
Deputy Reeve Fritsch.
Yes.
Councillor Yance.
Yes.
And that motion is carried. Confirming bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Township of Addington Highlands regular meeting. Councillor Yance. Councillor Hook. Ready for the vote. Councillor Thompson.
Yes.
Councillor Hook.
Yes.
Deputy Reeve Fritsch.
Yes.
Councillor Yance.
Yes.
That motion is carried. Motion to adjourn. Councillor Thompson, Councillor Yance. Ready for the vote. Councillor Thompson.
Yes.
Councillor Hook.
Yes.
Deputy Reeve Fritsch.
Yes.
Councillor Yance.
Yes.
That motion is carried and we are adjourned. Well, thank you, everyone.